Thank you for clicking on this video. In this one, we're going to take another look at the Fender Junior Collection Short Scale Jazz Bass. And we're going to compare it to a vintage 1968 full-scale Fender Jazz Bass. How will this short scale jazz bass compare to a vintage full-scale one? Let's find out. Since my first video on the Fender Junior Collection Short Scale Jazz Bass, I have received several viewer requests asking me to compare it to a full-scale J-Bass. If you want more information about this made in Japan short scale J-Bass, please check out the description box below for a link to my first video. Similarly, if you want more information about this beautiful 1968 Fender Jazz, please click on the link below. Now, on to the comparison. To best highlight the sonic differences between these two basses, I have prepared 3 different comparison tracks. In all of these recordings, the recording chain is the same. I had to level match them, but otherwise no EQ or compression was added in post. In the first comparison, we will be in the heavier rock genre. For this example, both basses will have all of the volumes wide open and the tone knob wide open at 100%. Let's hear the first one. Let's go. In this second comparison, let's get funky. For this one, the volume knobs will still be at 100% in both basses, but we're going to roll the tone knob back to about 75% for a slightly rounder sound. Alright, let's get funky. In this third comparison, we're going to slow the tempo down. As well, I want to compare the solo tones from these two basses. Now to get that tone, I'm going to favor the bridge pickup and I'm going to roll the tone knob back to 50%. Here we go. I hope you enjoyed these playing examples. Please let me know in the comments below what you thought of the tones. I think this A-B comparison between a short scale Junior Collection Jazz Bass compared to a vintage 1968 Fender Jazz really highlights the sonic differences between a full scale and short scale basses in general. In the low end, the short scale jazz bass sounds rounder, warmer, and has a more pillowy bottom. There seems to be a more emphasis on the fundamental note. In contrast, the low end on the full scale jazz bass does sound more tight, more articulate, and more taut. Now the high end is quite different too between these two jazz basses. In the short scale jazz bass, the high end seems to be a little rounder and a little less pingy. However, in the full scale jazz bass, that high end has a characteristic snappiness that we expect from a full scale jazz bass. And that snappiness is lacking a little bit in the short scale J. Now the mid-range. With the greater emphasis on the fundamental note in the short scale, I do find the mid-range sounds less complex in the short scale. In contrast, the mid-range on the 1968 jazz sounds like there's more sonic information there and there's just more going on. Since I took delivery of this short scale Junior Collection Jazz Bass, this has since become my go-to shorty J bass, and I really like how this thing sounds. In comparison to a 68 though, there's just something magical about a vintage Fender Jazz Bass that's kind of hard to reproduce in a newer instrument. There's just some kind of mojo to it that is kind of much more difficult to put into words. But hopefully this answers the question about how does a short scale Junior Collection J Bass compare to a full scale jazz bass. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thanks so much for tuning in. Catch you next time. Peace.